What do you mean when you say
Okay.
story?
And that's the biggest, I mean, just even because people are taught that a story has a beginning, middle, and an end. How does that help you? What doesn't?
Hmm.
Show me something that doesn't. I mean, like, what does that mean? A story is this. I mean, to put it in the smallest nutshell, a story is about how somebody confronts a problem they can't avoid, and something in their belief system has to shift in order
Hmm.
for them to either solve the problem or see it as something very different than they thought it was in the beginning. That's what a story is. It's not about the plot. I can't say that strongly enough. And I know I don't like using these words anymore because I used to say if it was up to me, I would burn. And now with all the book burnings, it's like I don't want to be associated with that. But I would burn every story structure book from, the much revered and deeply misogynist Hero's Journey all the way up to the most popular one now. Because first of all, it's a misnomer. Those are story structure. It's not. It's those are not story structure. They're plot structure, and it's
Hmm.
not about the plot. Story's internal. It's not external. Everything in a story gets its meaning based on how it's affecting the protagonist in the moment on the page as they're struggling with what to do. Every protagonist comes into this story with a fully formed agenda already there. There's so much work you need to do before you get into writing, page one, because all stories begin in medias res, meaning in the middle of the thing. So if
Hmm.
you start on page one and go forward, in the middle of what? There's so much work that needs to be done before, because if you don't mind my saying, the biggest lie that the writing world tells us, here's the writing world's, in my opinion, biggest lie:
Hmm.
use backstory sparingly, and then only when the reader needs to know something. Because first of
Hmm.
all, you never put anything in because the reader needs to know. Not that they don't, but that's not why you put it there. You put it there because the protagonist is struggling with what to do, and they're trying to figure that out. I mean, the command center of your novel is your protagonist's internal struggle, is that internal voice as they're trying to figure out what choice to make, because every scene, is going to have them ask them to make a difficult choice as they try to bring their agenda to fruition. So, backstory is what we use to make sense of what's happening in the moment. And without backstory, all you've got is the generic. All you've got is surface. And we don't come for surface. We don't come for what. We don't come from the plot. We come for why. Why is that character doing that? And that always comes from the past. In fact, backstory is where all story logic comes from. Because story logic doesn't come from the plot. Story logic comes from the internal, evolving, subjective narrative that your protagonist is using as they're making sense of what's going on. The meaning they're reading into it, not some intrinsic meaning in what's going on. Because, as I think we all know, especially in the past 10 years, if you look at facts on the surface that are things that are happening, we all are going to read very different meaning into that. You got to know what that is. And then that's on the page, it's on every single page. So that's not pre work, that's not work that you do that before the real writing comes in. That is the real writing.